silence mine since March is there's so much change. So as we delve into the subject this afternoon of recruiting in this pandemic, let's start with a word of prayer. Father God, having students on our campuses at our camps is so important. They do an incredible ministry. And as we are looking to 21 and what that looks like, and we're planning and we're getting ready for the blessings that you're going to pour out on us, we ask you to guide us in the right direction, give us wisdom to tackle this problem. Thank you so much, Father, for how much you love us and how you pour that out on us every day. In your name I pray, amen. Today we have chaplains from 5 different universities across the North American division that are joining us today to talk about what recruiting might look like on their campus. But before I introduce them, I want to share with you 6 things that I read in an article just yesterday entitled 8 Reasons Why You Should Work at Summer Camp and Be a Camp Counselor. You get to meet some great people. You get to have a positive impact on kids. You get to know yourself better. You get to make memories that last a lifetime. You get to unplug from technology, and you'll never need an alarm clock all summer long. I don't know if those of you that are joining us today have ever been a camp counselor, but I look back on my 3 summers that I camp counseled. I don't think I set an alarm once because there was always 12 alarm clocks in my cabin just waiting to jump off their bunks and start the day. As we look at this recruiting dilemma, I know that I felt like my hands were tied even this past year because half my recruiting was done before the pandemic, and I had to finish up recruiting during the pandemic. And it felt like I would just get all my staff lined up in a basket, so to speak, and then the basket would be thrown up in the air. I'd have to start all over again because something had changed. But with it all ironed out, I know that I had kids coming from everywhere, like some of you have been on today and said you had kids from all over the country looking for a place to come for the summer, looking for a place to work. We're all looking for those quality young adults to come to our camps and to minister alongside us for the summer. We know that one of the greatest resources that we have are our Adventist colleges and universities. And so when they were putting together the panel, we wanted to hear from those that are on those campuses about what is it looking like. I mean, they're right there with our students day in and day out. So what does it look like? So we'll spend a little bit of time talking with the 5 different campuses that have joined us today and finding out what things look like for them. We'll give each of them about 3 minutes. I've looked on and I've seen a few of the campuses here, but the first one we want to start out with is Southern Adventist University. Chaplain Joseph, I'm not sure if he's jumped on yet, but we're looking for him to see if he can share with us, what are you anticipating recruiting might look like, and how can you help us connect with the students on your campuses that we're wanting to hire? He may not have jumped on. So let's go to Southwestern Adventist University. I did see that Chaplain Russ was there. Chaplain Russ, if you can share with us the same thing. What's happening on your campus as you're looking forward to recruiting, and how can you help us connect with your students that want to work at summer camp this summer?
Well, first, hello, everybody. Welcome from Southwestern Adventist University. And I want to start by saying thank you for hiring our students to work in the summer camps. It makes such an incredible difference for our students. When they come back, they have had a spiritual retreat that lasts for weeks and some camps even months. And it makes a huge difference on our campus. And on behalf of the chaplains of all of our schools, I just want to say thank you for employing our students. A couple years ago, I did a study of our students, and 1 out of 8 of our students was working at a summer camp somewhere in the United States. To me, that's really, really exciting. Some of you have rebaptized some of our students. We're very, very excited. So thank you, thank you, thank you. we are in the same mess you are. It is called COVID-19, and we are neither prophets nor sons or daughters of prophets. And so we have no idea what's going to happen next week, let alone next month or this summer. But subject to change, and everything I say is subject to change. What we are doing right now is we're planning to be in school Martin Luther King Day in January. We're going to start with a major celebration of civil liberties on our campus, and we're really excited about what's happening with that. Then we plan to go through till graduation, Lord willing. We made it till within 1 week of Thanksgiving, and then we went virtual for our classes. So who knows what's going to be second semester. We're planning to go live. As long as we're live, you as camp directors are welcome on our campus. There are going to be a couple of things that we're going to request. Obviously, social distancing, masking, and we have temperature checks. When you'd come on, I have my cool little wristband here. Today is penguins, and so we'll have you put your wristband on, get checked, and then have access to our students. We're going to ask that you either use the cafeteria or we'll set you up in the library. And I shouldn't say or, and we'll set you up in the library. We have more private rooms that you can talk with kids and still be spatially distanced. Plus the foyer of the library works well. We'll set up a table at the cafeteria, and we'll even pay for your lunch. When you come and recruit our kids, we want you on our campus. Lunch and supper's on us. If you want to get up early enough and have breakfast too, that's fine with us. We want you on our campus. We want you to hire our kids, and we want you to have summer camp. That's Southwestern's plan.
Thank you so much, Pastor Russ, for the warm invitation to come down to Southwestern. Let's see if we have a couple other chaplains who have joined us yet. I am looking for, from Union College, Chaplain Rich Carlson, if he has joined us. I'm not sure, I haven't seen his name pop up down below. We'll give him a minute if he has joined us to unmute and share with us.
I just called Union College, and they said he was traveling and they weren't sure if he forgot. They tried to call him and they said he was on his phone, and I was hoping that meant he was on the Zoom, but maybe not.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I'll hold him down to the end of the list and we'll check back and see if he's joined us. Let's check in with Wall Wall University. I did see that Assistant Chaplain Andrea is with us. I'm not sure if Chaplain Albert is with us also or not, but if both of you or one of you can share with us what's happening on your campus and how you anticipate us connecting with your students as we go about recruiting this next year.
Yeah, this is Andrea, and I don't see Albert here. He wasn't sure if he was going to be able to make it, but I can give you a little bit of an update. And first of all, I'm very new here, so I'll give you what I do know so far. We have this last quarter, they had invited the freshmen and seniors back. This next quarter, they have invited everyone back to campus, which is helpful. But of course, like Chaplain Russ said, we don't really know week to week sometimes how things are really going to go. I know they are talking about doing a modified quarantine once people get here. They're planning to start basically 1st of January, but maybe with a quarantine start. Typically, our camps are invited, it's like the 3rd or 4th week of January. And so they have said, though, basically they've closed the campus to outside visitors. So physically coming on campus to recruit would be pretty tough as far as I can tell, unless there's a miracle. But we have been looking at other options and other ideas. One of them is our community, which will be, it's like our assembly time. I think it's January 26th on that Tuesday. We're having to do all of our community events online virtually. But Chaplain Albert was just telling me that we'll probably give about 10 minutes If there's camps that want to do like a spotlight video or something, we could start collecting those and highlight those there. And I would like to introduce Daryl, who I haven't met in person yet, but Daryl, if you want to jump on, I know we've also been kind of trying to connect with people on our campus who have already been working on virtual events, and I think they might have some good solutions too. So I'll hand it over to Daryl now.
Thanks, Andrea. Hi, everyone. So my name is Daryl Harwell, and I'm not a chaplain, but I work in the Student Development Center, so I oversee employer relations and recruitment events on campus. And the way we handled last quarter, with being as separated as we are from in-person events, is we utilized a new software that we have on our campus called Handshake, and we hosted a virtual recruitment fair, hosted about 30 employers, and it went really well. We had about 100 students attend, and they were able to do breakout sessions and engage with employers directly. And I don't know how many of you are aware of Handshake as a tool. It's a very large career services platform, which is the number one platform used in the nation right now. So it may, if you have several schools that are not able to host you in person, such as our campus will not be able to do, it does provide a lot of tools for you to engage with students utilizing either the platform itself, which has all the video software capabilities of like a Zoom that we're using right now, or you can actually link out. And so to a Zoom meeting or something of that nature. It allows for students to register to say that they want to attend the event, so you know a little bit about the student, and provides that follow-up information as well. We had a lot of success with it in fall term. So I think that could be an elegant way of engaging with all of our camps to set up a day where you were all able to attend either an event that we host, or if you would prefer to set up individual events as individual camps, you could also, I'm happy to help you guys do that, such that you are able to, as an individual camp, engage with 5 or 6 different universities at once, so it can work either way. It can either be hosted by the school with multiple employer organizations, in this case camps, or it can be by the camp hosting multiple universities. So I think that'd be, and I'm happy to share out. I have a Handshake guide that walks through what those kind of events look like, which I'm happy to post a link to that website so you can read up on it a little bit into the chat here, which I'll do here momentarily.
Thank you, Daryl. That sounds like something that could benefit a lot of us. I heard that we do have someone that can talk to us about Union College, and that is Roger Wade. And so, Roger, why don't you give us an update about what's happening at Union College and the recruiting potential there with their students?
Hey, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. We just had our union meeting, and we brought in the chaplain over for Pastor Rich came and joined us, and he shared with us that this last semester they went COVID free, and so they were very excited about that. They had a lot of stringent rules, and when we asked him specifically about recruiting, he was very excited. He wants the camps to come on campus. Matter of fact, he is actually sharing that other outside the union camp directors were calling. So Union is hoping that when they come back, they'll be live again in person. And we have already talked about areas in which we can social distance to do recruiting. And so we're working with that. Hopefully, if anything change, it will happen based because numbers are too high there. But we're praying that they're in Lincoln, in the local community, that it will not be so devastating that they would have to make adjustments. So Union is looking forward to having in-person opportunities for recruiting.
Thank you, Roger, for sharing that update with us. I do know that we have one more of our educational institutions online, Andrews University, Chaplain Jose. Why don't you share with us what's happening on your campus and how you anticipate us being able to connect with your students this year?
It's good to see you, Wendy, and so many others. Love summer camp ministry. And I feel like you had half of my campus ministry staff there in Arizona this last summer, Wendy.
Mhm.
Just kidding. We would love to host summer camps. We're I think some of what Russ said is true, which is basically everything's always subject to change. We almost made it through the end of the semester before the state health department shut us down for the last week. So that's kind of the operational reality that we're facing as we move into this next year. Our intention is to start in person like we have done over this last fall, and we're looking to start in person again in January. We have every intention to start on time, which is January 11. But as has been noted across all major networks, Michigan sometimes has taken a more conservative approach. So we're waiting on that. And that's just underlying how things can change from one day to the next. Our intention is to host for sure our union summer camps here in person. They're going to be physically distant. We're curating spots where they usually huddle in a main lobby area. Obviously, that's not going to be possible. And then working to see with other summer camps who've come, and there's probably another 3, 4, 5 who come, if we can coordinate the schedule so that not everybody bunches at the same time. I think that as long as we can ensure physical distancing in the interview process and the meeting and greeting, and I think as long as we can ensure not too many summer camps or outside groups coming in at the same time, that we can be able to work this out. I'll be very honest about the approach that I'm taking since I coordinate this, is I'm not treating the summer camps as an outdoor vendors until I have more information about our local COVID realities. I'm trying to treat the summer camps like ministry partners as much as possible, and hoping that will be adequate for us to pass our litmus test. So as long as there aren't outside influences from the county to impact us, which literally can change from one day to the next, I think we're going to be able to do some hosting of the summer camps. It'll just be important for you all to email us or text us. Our email is engagefaith@andrews.edu. Let us know when you'd like to come, and that way we can figure out what the juggle is in terms of calendaring for the summer camps to come. So in terms of in-person visits, I think that's what we're going to be able to do. I think the other thing that can be very helpful is if you do have videos, we'll be able to share those. And my recommended length of time for videos is 2 minutes or less. And I say recommended because we have found in this environment, since we don't have our regular gatherings, that social media is the best spot for us to communicate to our students, primarily through Instagram. So the shorter the videos, the more likely it's going to get high viewership. And then we'll be able to do some emailing to students, which we all know how students love that email stuff. But we want to communicate as much as possible to be able to let students know when summer camps will be around.
Thank you so much, Jose, for that encouraging word. Yeah. I did hear that Ken Rogers is on with us, and he can address what's happening down at Southern Adventist University. And I would encourage all those representing the universities, we're going to have a question and answer at the end, and please make sure you stay tuned for that, because we probably have questions for you about coming on your campus and some things that we may need from you, information. So Pastor Ken Rogers, are you there?
Hi.
Hi. Tell us what's happening at Southern.
Well, hey, Southern is like everybody else. They're feeling all these restrictions, and Chaplain Joe uses the same words. It seems to change and add, and they have to be very, very flexible with whatever policies are being put in place. I tell you this. Recruiting will be open at Southern after the first week of February for everybody to come in. They're coming back a lot later from their break this time, and so they'll be ready. But they are encouraging camps to come and recruit. They have quite a list of, I'll call them restrictions or guidelines that they're asking everybody to follow. They can't have more than 5 camps set up physically in the student center. They will provide a 6-foot table, and that's it. No big displays, no other things. Those tables will be set up in locations that are, compliant with the distance.
Mm-hmm.
No eating, no food distribution. If you do have something, it has to be a grab and go, but they don't want any eating and exchange of that in the student center there. So they will accommodate it. You just need to call them in and let them know you're coming. Chaplain Cabaz, Joseph Cabaz, his office there at Southern, and they'll accommodate it. They do have video screens across the campus that they use for announcements. And he's just recommending a 10-second silent video clip that will loop and run through. And if you send that to them in advance, they'll put it in their system and it would advertise the camp and that you're coming, but there's no sound or anything, and it'll just loop and play throughout the time that you're there or a few days before to announce that you're coming. But they're very anxious to want to accommodate. They value summer camp ministry in a mighty way and want to support that. And they realize that those students are the kind of students that they want on campus. So check with them, and the Southern group will be coming in the first week of February, and then after that it's open season. So we encourage you to go to Southern.
Thank you so much, Pastor Ken. We are looking forward to your students on all of our camps also. It's exciting when we get to talk about recruiting, because it means that summer camp is coming soon. And I know that there are several camp directors that we're going to have come on the panel next, just to talk about what they've been thinking about recruiting, questions that they may have, or ideas that they want to share with us. So the first one that we're going to hear from is Pastor Craig Heinrich. He's the executive director at Leone Meadows Camp in Northern California. I know Craig's been involved in camp ministry for many, many years. In fact, back in the day, Craig and I were deans at Georgia Cumberland Academy, and both of us worked at different summer camps on different sides of the U.S., and we would constantly say one camp was better than the other, Leone, or at that time I was at Camp Sable. But Craig has a passion for camp, and he has especially a passion for the young adults that work there. So I know he and I have been talking about what's it going to look like. So Craig, share with us what your heart's been feeling and thinking about this coming summer when you are thinking about recruiting your staff.
Hey, thanks, Wendy. Yeah, this is crazy times for us. Our conference has chosen to pretty much put the kibosh on any travel. So I'm not even sure they're going to let me out of the state to go traveling. So we've been focusing on our own conference. I actually kind of stole that idea from Big Lake a couple of years ago, and we've been working on this, and that is putting our emphasis and our time into our own kids, coming alongside of our high schools. And I know that seems awfully young, but I've found if we target those seniors, if I get them when they're 18, they may stay with me for 4, 5, 6 years, and every year they just get better and better and better. So that's one of the things we're going to do. I also stole fair and square an idea from Wendy, and that is to offer an incentive to the returning staff to bring some of their good friends with them. I think Wendy gives them some cash. We've been toying with giving them an Amazon gift card or something easier for the traditional treasurers to understand what we're doing. If you give a kid cash and it doesn't show up on the balance sheet, you get yourself a little bit of a pickle. So other than that, we've already posted on our website our online application for the summer 2021. We're looking forward to recruiting through our returning staff. I think that's probably where we're going to get our best bang for the buck. So that's what we're doing. Thanks, Wendy, for letting me have a few minutes there.
No problem, Craig. Thank you so much. We have I would say a
Hey,
fairly new
Sorry, you
camp
keep
director
calling me in between calls here.
for
Phone tag.
North Star Camp. Pastor Shalina has been the director there. She's been there for 3 summers. A big part of her life, the biggest impact she talks about happened at summer camp. And that all of a sudden God dropped summer camp in her lap. She's been a pastor, and now she finds that this summer camp is her favorite part of her job, and I can identify with that. Shalina, as you think about recruiting students, I know you had a few students at your camp, this summer. As you look forward to the next few months recruiting more students, do you have a plan of attack? What are you thinking?
Thank you so much, Miss Wendy. For me, the numbers don't really add up. Our biggest thing is we try to do retention and keep staff from the previous year, and not having a lot of staff from last year, it feels challenging. But I believe God's going to do great things. The 6 staff we had for a smaller group, really, it's the biggest spiritual growth I've seen in anyone ever. And they're on fire for Jesus, and they're doing small group ministries. And I just think they're going to be ambassadors for camp in ways we've never seen before. So I'm excited about that. On more kind of practical things, we're sending out Christmas Chipotle. This is a weird year for us because all my staff that I hired for 2020, I don't actually have addresses for because we didn't get to that stage of paperwork. Like I didn't ask for it in their initial application. And so I have to go back to 2019 before I have like actual physical addresses to mail them a present or mail them something. So we're going to send out e-gifts. We're going to send out personalized emails to everybody and send them a gift card in there for our 20 people we would have hired for 2020 and people that we would have hired for, and people we hired for 2019, and just reach out and try to rebuild some of those connections. We ended on pretty good terms with a lot of the people we weren't able to hire, but it's going to take God's work for that to come back through because, it's really hard to go back to say, you totally promised me something and you were not able to deliver. And so I am hopeful that God is going to do great things. And other than that, just reaching out to staff, and I think Union's pretty open, so hopefully we can do a lot of recruiting there. But just those are kind of some of the plans that we've got at the moment.
Thank you so much for sharing. I think a lot of us feel the same way. The momentum kind of stopped from our hiring, and we're going to have to depend on things that we haven't always depended on. That face-to-face, when you meet a student and you're able to interview them and you get a good feel, it's completely different when there's a lot of distance between you and you're relying on a computer screen, to be able to interview students. So I know, like what you were saying, Shalina, God has great things in store, because we all know the Bible tells us that God will be glorified. So in the midst of COVID, God is going to be glorified, and I can't wait to see what he has to do. But I'll share a couple of things that I'm doing. Craig, you kind of stole my thunder there, but I do recruiting in a box is what I call it. And I select a student on each one of the campuses that has worked for me, that has leadership potential, and especially one that I know that's going to get the job done. And I send everything that I would need for recruiting if I was on that campus with them. I send it to them in a box. I send T-shirts. I send posters. I send some gift cards for them to have a pizza party. And then I also send a schedule of when I can do interviews. And I have them recruit their friends and set up the interviews for me. I've done this for 2 years now, and I think it's beneficial. I think it's helped our recruiting, at Camp Yavapai. And I also will pay them. If you recruit a new hire and they complete their contract, I do a gift card, or we do a bonus, at the end of the summer for them. And that's been very helpful. I know that my administrative assistant, Carissa, has already started contacting the universities and colleges to find out what can we do through social media to get things moving and rolling now. we've opened our returning staff application already in anticipation that it's going to take us a lot longer to get staff this year. And like many of you have already said, my travel is no. There's no travel for me until April from my conference administration. And so it is going to be challenging to get on these campuses. And I think that we're just going to have to rely on technology and rely on those relationships that we've built. But I know that I've seen the chat, I've seen lots of things going on in the chat. So I know that a lot of you have questions. And so we're going to open it up for question and answer. And I believe that David Yeagley has some of those questions for us.
Well, we've seen this stuff that's coming across the chat, and this is not necessarily a question, but Teresa, you jumped on and talked about doing an at-camp piece of recruiting, and I think it would be helpful if you could jump on and give us a little more information on what that looks like.
Yeah, so we are allowed to travel, but that doesn't mean we always should. But students don't have those restrictions, right? So our camp is open under local guidelines, so we're following everything. But I really felt led by God to bring the kids here. And what better place to recruit than what they're missing? They're hungry for camp. And that was just everything I kept hearing from them this summer. And so I quickly put together, and thankfully Phil is very supportive of our craziness, quickly put together a start the new year at Kalakwa. And so New Year's Eve, our staff are going to come in. I've sent out an invite to all of them. They registered. It's completely free to them. And so we're going to honestly not program a lot because we're all camp people. We just want to hang out, right? And spend time together. So we're just going to create moments. That's the goal. And I know God will show up. So that night, we're just going to do New Year's Eve together. New Year's Day, we'll wake up at, like 10. I'll be at lunch by then. And we'll just spend that together. And then we'll enter our very first Sabbath. I think that's the biggest thing for this program is it's New Year's is landing perfectly for us because we can start our first Sabbath of the year together. So that's the recruiting idea. And I've opened it up to even include I've opened it up to even include friends. So if they have a friend that they feel like would be a good fit for camp, they can reach out to me, we talk, and they can bring them as well. So that's the program in a nutshell.
Awesome. That's great. Hey, this is a question for Jose from Andrews. Hopefully he's still on from Stacy. Just a clarification on those videos that you talked about sending. Do those go out to engagefaith@andrews.edu? Is that the address where you want those videos to go?
Yeah, if you email it there, I mean, probably if it's a 2-minute video, you're going to email a Dropbox link or a Google Drive link. If you email it there, we'll collect them there so that we can store them.
Great. Thanks so much. Timothy Floyd was asking about whether we can make a chart. AACP can make a chart with what's going on with all the schools. And you've probably seen in the chat that we'll be working on trying to gather that information and put that together. Carmen has asked about how are we dealing with the NAD travel restrictions, conference travel restrictions. Tracy, you made a comment there in the chat about what's going on at the NAD with travel and how that might impact us. Do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, just briefly. Mostly across the division, every entity, conference, union, division makes their own decisions for their specific office. And so the NAD doesn't determine what unions and conferences do. So, your restriction is going to be up to whoever your employing organization is that makes that determination. So, yeah.
Obviously, check with your conferences. I know just from a recruiting standpoint, one of the things that I've been tucking away in the back of my mind is that I may be shifting a fair amount of my recruiting later in the year this time, just because schools are opening later, travel restrictions, and so that's something to think about. I know a lot of you go out to eat with your staff. That question came up in the chat. There's been quite a bit of answers there already. And if anyone wants to jump in and answer further, but what we're gathering there is obviously we need to be looking at that as we get closer to the time frame. I think a lot of schools as of right now would say, no, we don't want you to do that. So I think before you start going back into those traditional let's all go out to eat. You better have some conversations with schools and make sure that that's even going to be a possibility. Great. I'm curious, and one of the things too, if any of you have other thoughts or ideas in terms of how to make recruiting happen, feel free to jump in. Carmen's got a crazy idea. She says, what if we went to each college / university or a conference and put out each other's material and helped promote camp ministry in general? Carmen, what a great idea. You want to talk about that at all in terms of what your thoughts are? Because I think I would love to see it happening in a school or union. You go out and help other camps.
Similar to what happens sometimes when somebody has to leave early, when we go to PUC or Sierra University, we leave each other's material with somebody else, another camp. I think we've done it for each other. And we just, we're positive about camp ministry. So we just don't, only promote ours. We promote all of them. Just ask, say, hey, every camp is good. No matter where you go, that you're going to do great, as long as it's camp ministry. And so, and depending where you want to be, if you don't want to be in Southern California, well, then go to Northern California, or if you want to go to Arizona, that's great too, or Hawaii, or wherever it might be. But that's just an idea that I had. That way we don't, I'm not allowed to travel, but I'm happy to put your material out. So that was just a thought.
Yeah, what a great idea, Carmen. And it speaks to, I think, the spirit of AACP, which is all of us cooperating together. And that's really powerful. So let's keep that alive, that idea alive, and would love to be talking more about that. Tracy, you mentioned in the chat about ACF and maybe ways that we could utilize that organization to help with the recruiting. Is there anything more that you want to say about that?
Yeah, I can speak to that briefly. As you know, we have a lot of young adults who are doing studies on public campuses. Many of them, of course, are looking for summer work. A lot of them are actually graduate or postgraduate students, and they're looking actually for internships and things like that. The access to them has always been very limited. If you knew somebody in your conference, that's how you figured it out. Somebody knows somebody. But with the student association that has been developing over the last 4 years, we've got student officers that are really connected into a lot of students across North American Division. And so we've never done anything with this before, but it is very possible that AACP, the board or whomever, we could put something together where we could do a virtual recruitment thing where we could get online and invite you guys to come get students that might be interested and do a gathering or a rally maybe in January or February. So that's a place we've never explored before. And this COVID safe time is a time where maybe we could develop something with that.
One of the things I'm hearing as we're listening to the ideas coming through, and we heard this in the last panel discussion, and then that's innovation. And I think we're all in this position where we're having to think out of the box. And my hope is that through us having to think out of the box, think creatively, we may come up with better methods of recruiting, better ideas, better ways to cooperate together, which I think is huge. And so I hope that we keep these conversations going, and we're seeing a number of great ideas coming there in the chats. What about ordering out food? There's all kinds of creative ideas.
David, yeah. This is Tracy. Let me mention a couple of other items on this. Recruiting is so different now, and obviously we're going to be recruiting from our offices probably than from a campus. At least the majority of the time we'll be recruiting from the office. And like Craig was saying early on when he was talking about who are the students that that are seniors in your schools around you. More than ever before, to recruit local is going to be huge for us. And to find those students that maybe we never thought of recruiting before, but just saying we're gonna plug you in because it's easier, and it's potentially easier if they got to go home or if something comes up or they're more close to the local, in your conference area. now is the time like never before to go after the local pastors, find the pastors, tap into your pastors in your conference and find out who those students are in their churches, and really grab into the mindset, I'm going to raise my next generation of staff at my conference, or from my conference, and just really go after them, because this travel and even student travel to travel across the country to a place is not simple anymore. None of this is simple. So I think it behooves us as leaders to really shift our eyes to those kids that we've raised up through Pathfinders, through TLT, through some of these things, and say, I need to know these kids more than I have in the past.
It's great thoughts. I don't know if there's anyone on from Big Lake. Because Big Lake has, and it was mentioned earlier, has been very intentional about looking local and developing local leadership. Do we have anyone on from Big Lake that might want to speak to that? Tracy, I mean, you were there in that conference. Talk to us about what they do.
Yeah, before I came to the division, we were there, and we really instigated this idea that we're not going to go recruit. We're only going to recruit our kids, or from our university. We're not going to travel to other universities outside our conference. So we were staying with Walla Walla University, and then if students wanted to work at Big Lake, of course, we would do online interviews and wouldn't travel to the other universities. But exactly what we did was what I just mentioned to you. Les Albrecht, myself, when I was still there, I was a Pathfinder leader. We started connecting and connecting into the TLT program, saying, who are these kids and can we hire them? And a lot of them we couldn't hire. We didn't have spaces and places for them. And I know, David, you hired some into Washington Conference and others that came out of the TLT program in Oregon. And so it really is important. I can't stress enough the connection between pathfinding and those older teens, or the local school, making sure you're hiring your student association officers out of your academies, or those students that are showing leadership in your local academies, and investing into them. You already know them, they already know you. And to just say, you know what? I'm going to raise my experts, and I'm not going to depend on somebody else to train in my experts, because I need them. And so that's really the mindset that we took back in the day when I was there. And of course, it's carried on with them.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the other area that, and we touched on with ACF, and that's our public high school and public university students. And this is a group that's oftentimes overlooked in our recruiting. We're on our Adventist campuses, but these are local people. These are men and women that, could really use that connection. The challenge we have, and this is a conversation that I know I've had with my conference, saying, you know what, could we provide a scholarship for our public students out of the conference that would match the educational subsidy that the universities are getting? Those are difficult conversations when the money is tight, but it might be worth having that conversation and beginning to think about how we could make that attractive for our public campus students. Camp could be a powerful tool for them, and that's a whole other area of recruiting that we haven't touched on very much.
If I can share something just briefly,
Daryl.
Thank you. One of the things as I've met with camp directors coming on campus to recruit for the last couple of years, that I've tried to share sort of what I think might be a new philosophy of recruitment for camps, is that many of our college students, particularly juniors and seniors, are trying to meet internship requirements related to their majors. Now, so for things to be aware of as when you're doing recruitment, is that for each of those requirements, they have to be able to list learning objectives, right? And summer term for especially for our campuses, when they're able to do that, right? Which is obviously then creating competition in their minds for what they're going to do over their summer plans, whether they're going to go to camp as a camp counselor or they're going to be able to meet their graduation requirement. So one of the things I've talked to folks about is to think a little differently when you're engaging with students and when you're creating position descriptions. Now, certainly you need camp counselors and things of that nature, but try to think a little broader and imagine for a second you have the student who is who's a marketing major. And they need to meet their marketing internship requirements, where they have to demonstrate learning objectives around outreach, social media management, web page creation, whatever it might be. right? They're not going to be able to meet those requirements, if they're coming out to camp and kind of, doing fun stuff and engaging with youth and singing good songs and things like that. But we end up in a situation where in order to meet requirements, they oftentimes might have to say no to a camp position, right? So what if camps looked also at creating positions that were related to the areas of administration that you have, like finances, marketing, accounting, management, those sorts of things that you were all doing as leaders, and you brought in students as interns who also did camp counselor duties, but were then also able to meet those requirements for graduation. I think you're going to start finding students being able to perk up and get really excited about coming back to camp because they're also being able to meet requirements for graduation. And I also did want to mention, make sure that you guys are posting to the university's job boards when you're creating these positions. So I already gave my plug for Handshake, but all of our positions for our university, for our students, are now getting posted on that. So that's where students are finding jobs and looking for them over summer, is on that platform. So please do register on there and post those early. That way students can begin exploring those and engaging in and applying for those.
Awesome, Daryl. Thanks so much. I think we've covered all the questions. I'm going to pass this back to Wendy to wrap up our time.
Daryl, thank you for bringing that out. That's something that I've done at several of the different camps that I've been a director of, is utilizing the internships. You can get kids who have worked for you for about 2 to 3 summers, and they're at that point in their education where they've got to have an internship. And you can look at the requirements and you can tailor their job description to match those requirements, because those senior staff, is what I call them, that have been a part of your program for 3 years, they are incredibly valuable for mentoring and training the first year students that are coming and working at your camp. And it's really easy to do, to look at the internship requirements that they have and to just customize. Maybe it's a counselor, and if the counselor teaches some class or works in the office and does something during an activity time, it's pretty easy. A lot of the internships don't have huge hour requirements. They just have things that the student needs to experience. And if they're with you for 8 weeks, they get way more than enough hours. So if it's something you haven't tried before, as a camp director, I would say, just jump in and find out what you can do to help those students, because they love camp and they don't want to leave, but they also know that they need the internship. And I've heard from many executives that have worked at camp and now are in that executive world, and summer camp ministry was important on their resume, that someone actually noticed it in the interview and made a comment about the years that they had spent at summer camp. We're blessed that summer camp has such a good reputation out there in the world. I don't think there's any more questions that have come across in the chat, but I want to close with something that I alluded to in the beginning, and that is, when I started summer camp at my camp, we did it without campers, which was something very, very odd. Our leadership team met all throughout April and May to figure out how are we going to run a summer camp if we have to go that way without campers. And I am telling you, the collegiates, the young adults that I had working on my team, they're way more creative than I am. And you just give them the idea and they run with it. And I was excited to see about the things that they were talking about. And when we all got to camp, without campers, my instinct as a camp director was, this might be a little bit of a letdown. They're going to be excited to see one another because they haven't for so long. But when we open up that first day of camp and there are no campers, how is their attitude going to be? And so I remember giving them a pep talk on the night before we were to start. We all came together and spent Sabbath together before we started camp. And I took them into scripture and I said, you can just look through story after story in scripture of major things that happened. But every single thing that happens, you read the end of the story and God gets all the glory. And I told my staff, I said, we're going to see more than one time this summer that God's going to be glorified. And when you come up against something, you might be discouraged and say, I don't see those campers in front of me, because campers give us energy while we do our jobs. If you don't see them in front of you, just remember, God's going to be glorified in our summer of COVID. And so as we look to another summer that we're going to have to deal with COVID, I think as camp directors, we all need to remember God's going to be glorified. We don't know what that looks like yet, but he has promised us that he's going to take us home and that he's going to be glorified in everything that happens. And I think passing that on to our staff that may be a little discouraged that summer camp didn't look just like it looked the year before is of value. So if you guys will join me, we're going to close with a word of prayer. Father God, thank you so much for this time that you provided for us to be together, to talk about something that we're all passionate about, and that is students working at camp and sharing you with the children of all of our conferences. And as we move forward to summer 21, again, we need your wisdom, Father. We need to know the direction that you would have us go, because we're not going to stop doing evangelism. COVID-19 is not going to stop us. So come alongside of us and fill our minds with creative ways to reach out and recruit students this summer to work at our camps. And again, thank you for your love, Father. In your name I pray, amen.
Amen. Thank you to our universities for being here and all of our members for engaging with more ideas. It truly warms my heart to see names popping up on the chat from across the world. I mean, I just ate dinner, so I don't know what time it is there, but you didn't need to know that, did you? But it's just cool to see everybody and to hear ideas and hear your voices, some of you guys. And anyway, I'm loving it. So thank you guys for engaging with that. And thank you, Wendy, for being here, putting this together. It's great to see you again. That's why this is so great. Just get to see all of our friends. Moving right along with our day, we have our business meeting at 6:40. I know some of the schedules said 6:45. It is 6:40. We're going to start with the 6:40 mark, where we're going to have the opening remarks, and we want you to be here to know how the voting is going to happen. That's a tricky thing on technology. So we've posted the link in the chat box. Dennison's going to put that in with the agenda and the meeting minutes that we're going to look at. And so we'll link that. That's on our website as well as in the chat box. So during this short break, take time just to review that, have them handy for the meeting, because we are going to be voting on the minutes and things like that. For those of you joining us on the dial-in phone number, we want you now to get your tablet or your computer. It seems to work better on a computer, and join us in the Zoom app to be eligible to vote. The call-in numbers will not allow people to vote, and so that's why we're asking you to join us in the actual Zoom app. So for our members who are sharing screens with a spouse or streaming with your camp staff, you'll also want to get your own device. You can still stream it, but have your own devices ready so you're eligible to cast an individual vote. All right, so that's everything in regards to preparing for our business meeting at 6:40. So we will see you back here in about 15 minutes. That's 6:40 Eastern time. How many more times can I say that? We'll see you guys soon.